Thank you, Representative McEachin. And first, I want to thank you, Chairman, for hosting this hearing dedicated to Puerto Rico's political status. After the election in November, we deserve a real debate on this, and we're getting it today, finally. And I want to thank Ranking Member Westerman as well for that opportunity. I was more than happy to have Resident Commissioner Jennifer Gonzalez Colon begin speaking on behalf of our bill together because my motivation is to lift up voices from Puerto Rico, not from the state side. That's been the problem all along. Yesterday, we celebrated National Buccaneers Day. Uh, Heroes who fought for this country since 1899, for many years in segregated units. And to date, Puerto Ricans enlist in the armed services at double the rate of those on the mainland. Yet none of them can vote for commander in chief, have senators, or voting representatives in Congress. That is a national shame. My family's native island of Puerto Rico has been through so much hardship over the last few years, an over decade-long economic recession, deadly hurricanes Maria and Irma, terrible budget cuts from the Promesa Fiscal Board, earthquakes, and now COVID-19. It's clear now that 2 senators and 4 representatives would have greatly helped during these crises, and that the territorial status is failing 3.2 million Americans there. We see this every day in Central Florida as thousands of Puerto Ricans feel they have to leave the island to come to our region because they no longer think they could be prosperous on the island. This is an injustice, and this is the main motivation why I'm here to help lift up voices on the island. Amidst the chaos, the Puerto Rico legislature decided to do something about it. They passed legislation to hold a vote on the future political status of the island. Unlike past elections, the ballot language was simple. It was a statehood yes or no question voted on during a high turnout 2020 general election. And the people voted by a majority of 52.52% for statehood. This was higher than any gubernatorial candidate, our resident commissioner, or even any party, all of whom won by pluralities, as opposed to a simple majority. The fact is, the statehood vote crossed many party lines to get to the majority. The numbers just evidence that. And this is why I filed the Puerto Rico Statehood Admissions Act along with Commissioner Jennifer Gonzalez Colon and many others. Because in democracy, when the people vote, action is supposed to occur afterwards. Governments change, leaders change, and political statuses change. That is the essence of our republic. We vote and a majority rules. Our bill would still set up one last binding election. Statehood, yes or no. And if a majority votes yes, they'd be admitted to the union after a brief transition period. And if they vote no, then it would be no. There are other factions that I am more than happy to bring to light. A minority of Puerto Ricans on the island are pushing for a concept called enhanced Commonwealth status. This is, of course, not a thing. Dr. Ponce Krauss mentioned it at length today, and I'm not going to belabor it other than to say it's a fictional status where Puerto Rico would get most of the benefits of statehood without any of the burdens. Feel free to review our Constitution or the letter from the professor as well as other top constitutional law experts, which has already been submitted for the record, but if not, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit it. The Constitution is clear. Puerto Rico could choose statehood, territory, or independence. Free association doesn't need to be on the ballot. It would be a decision if Puerto Rico decided to be independent, whether they want to be a free association like Palau or whether they'd want to be independent without a relationship. So the choices have been clear for a long time, which brings me to the other bill. Why would we have a constitutional convention when the 3 options are already clear? Perhaps to create lofty demands to the United States that will never happen, but it will in fact cause critical delay during a limited window of opportunity for Puerto Rico to finally resolve its second-class citizenship. Other problems with the convention bill, it creates a new legislative body when Puerto Rico already has a legislature. And it also purports to allow for meaningful debate to decolonize Puerto Rico. But the Puerto Rican legislature has been debating this for 100
Thank you.
years. And my time's expired. Grijalva. Now, we talked a lot about my bill already, just a few concerns about the competing bill. First, we've heard at length that there's three choices: statehood, territory, or independence. Association is just a type of independence. We wouldn't need that on the ballot. If Puerto Ricans have picked independence, they could decide whether or not they want to be free association or not. The second concern is it's a critical delay of an issue that's been debated for over 100 years during a limited window of opportunity to finally resolve the second-class citizenship of Puerto Rico. And then third, it creates a new legislative body on top of the Puerto Rico legislature, which is already elected and has, trust me, debates this every day. It also purports to allow meaningful debate to decolonize Puerto Rico. But that's untrue, because colonization is about ignoring elections. That's colonization, ignoring 3 elections in favor of statehood. Lastly, it's got to be stated that a lot of these issues are pushed by a minority of Puerto Ricans who live on the mainland who support independence. Puerto Ricans who live in states and use their clout in Congress to prevent our brothers and sisters on the island from finally resolving their political status. I've never been opposed to independence. If I thought there was a good chance, that would be another great option. But we know independence polls in the single digits routinely on the island. Puerto Ricans value their American citizenship. We've heard that over and over today. Being part of the United States lifts up their quality of life. They pledge allegiance to the flag, and they serve in the U.S. military in staggering numbers. So what do you do if you can't win an election? You delay. Justice delayed is justice denied. And I want to also quote our majority leader, Steny Hoyer, just signed on to our bill this week. And he Mr. Chairman, if I may move to submit his written testimony for the record. He says, I quote, "The people of Puerto Rico have told us time and time again, through multiple plebiscites in recent years, that they chose statehood. I think that we in Congress would be wise to listen to what the people of Puerto Rico are telling us. We also have constitutional experts from the Congress supporting it, like Jamie Raskin, because he understands that there's really only 3 options and we've already had a vote. We have fellow Puerto Ricans like Richie Torres and Jennifer Gonzalez Colon supporting our bill. We have progressives, centrists, and conservatives supporting our bill, including over 60 House sponsors, many from the Hispanic caucus, many from the territories, as well as Senators Heinrich, Padilla, Wyden, and Schatz, because it represents the enforcement and recognition of democracy. Ultimately, should our bill pass, Puerto Ricans will have one last election to vote to become a state or not. If they truly want to remain a territory or become independent, they could vote no. And if they want to become a state, they will vote yes. I ask the Congress, let our people vote. Let the will of the majority prevail and let democracy be done in these United States of America, and not let this be about personalities or alliances. It should be about the vote. I wanted to talk to some of the witnesses that we've invited today. Ms. Velez Garcia, are there a lot of progressives who support the plebiscite and statehood on the island?
Yes, actually. Supporting equality across the board without being selective is at the heart of being a progressive. And as you know, within the Democratic Party, the progressive movement has gained gigantic steps. I understand that there are progressives within the rank and file of the Democratic Party that do not support statehood, certainly. And you know, we are a big house and we are respectful of everyone's opinion. But as you said yourself, there is no better exercise on democracy than the casting of the ballot. And we have
Thank you so much. My time is limited.
Yes,
Mr.
sorry.
Fuentes, are there many conservatives on the island who support statehood as well?
Question. There, as you know, the Republican Party is island and Puerto Rico are extreme. at the highest level of home ownership country, at the highest level, second only to Nevada, in military participation. We have more churches per square mile than anywhere in the country. So yes, the answer to your question is an absolute yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, and my time's expired.
Thank you very much, Mr. Soto. Gentleman yields back.